かんないけど、声を収録するときに、変身っていう、日本特撮の独特の言い回しで、でも、このキャラクターのジョーはそんな言い方しないだろう。むしろ軽いノリで、面白いこと言うんじゃないかなって、声を取ってるときにその場のノリで決まったセリフ。
Actually, they wanted to maintain a little bit of the Japanese culture in the game. And if you look in the 1970s, 1960s, they have a lot of these superhero shows. And most of the superheroes can transform. And when they transform, they all say henshin. It's like a staple phrase that they use a lot in all these older series. When they were actually doing the voice recording for the game, they were going to do henshin only, but then they're like, that sounds too Japanese and it doesn't sound like the character Joe. Joe doesn't have that kind of personality. So they talked with actually the voice actors, the person that was doing the sound direction, and just right there when they were doing the voice acting, they're like, okay, let's make it henshin a go-go. So they just decided that. It wasn't anything they actually thought about this way. It just sort of came into being.
Had it at the beginning of the project, especially in front of the baseball.
自分が最初考えた段階の全体的なイメージと実際のした商品に比べてどれほど完成度が近いのかを出した
ある意味超えてる部分があるから、そういう意味では満足度が20%。
Actually, they were able to achieve things that when they originally thought about playing the game, they didn't think they'd be able to do. So you could say he's 120% satisfied with what they came up with.
Viewtiful Joe ended up doing quite well in Japan because it initially sold out further to your expectations in Japan. You had to put other shipments out. So were you expecting that? And were you pleased with how it was taking the world around?
日本での2000に対して満足がいますね。一応、セーリングしてるっていう感覚がいっぱい売れてほしいですね。
まずもし売れてほしいと思ってるけど、日本今あんまりゲームが売れなくなってるから、その中ではまあ売れたことだとは思うんだけど、満足はしてない。
Actually, no, I'm not really satisfied. I think it's a better game than that, and it should have sold more. However, if you look at the Japanese market right now, it's in the dumps, and especially with the GameCube games, they don't usually sell that much. So, thinking about how much a common GameCube game in Japan actually sells, I'm happy it was able to sell that well. It didn't sell well for those boundaries. But in total, not thinking about that, it should have sold more. It's a good game.
So, with that in mind, do you think it will end up coming out on those systems?
そのことを考えると、興味津々でこういうじゃないけども、そう考えると、じゃあ別のドラムを出すとか、そういうのはあり得るんですか？
わかんない。日本で売れてるのは子供にすごく売れてるんですよね。でそういう意味では別にゲームキューブに変わったことが2人だっていうか、例えば別にプラットフォームで出してるからすごく売れてるかどうかそういうわけでもない。
I don't really know. Actually, this game is geared for kids. Well, not geared for kids, but a lot of kids are actually buying it in Japan. So when you think about kids, most of them own a GameCube. So we think it actually does fit that platform very well for Japan, the Japanese market. So I don't think necessarily if we were to release it on another platform, it would necessarily just do great sales, like 3 times, 4 times what it's doing. Because it's usually the kids that are actually buying it in Japan. Multiplayer? started developing it, they thought about it once, but then they just realized it wouldn't fit the game. It would be too hard to implement. So they quickly gave up on that idea.
How's the pronunciation skills in the graphics style?
なんでフルシェードを使うことにしたのかな。Cell shading is actually the easiest technology to use to give 3D graphics a comic book anime-esque touch, which is what they were going for. So.
Today I have the power to grant my son's superpower. If I could give him any superpower, what would it be?
Good question. 例えば彼は稲葉さんに超能力をすることができたってしかないから仮にどういう超能力を使いたいんですか。それは無給個人的に何万何千関係ないので何だろう自分がどんな超能力を使えるのか
超能力ね、人の心を読める。
To be able to read people's minds. That's what he wants to be able to do. Questions? Others?
Wondering if you had fun with something else in class, games or
Bullet time?
Yeah.
You mean like slow motion? And you were wondering what about it?
Did they that's something they planned like in the start of the game? A lot of games use it, but don't use it very well.
最初から私も考えた段階からもスローモーション入れようと思ったんですけど、いや、最初からはないと思う。No, they didn't. They came up with it about halfway through the development process. They wanted to use it. It was not originally this VFX game with all these special effects. That came in later.
What inspirations have you had during the
There are really not any big ones that they're just like based off movies or songs or anything like that. They just knew that they wanted to make a game and make it look cool. They wanted to focus on stylistic, like this cool game, cool action game. You could say that perhaps some of the ideas come from Matrix. I mean, we all see movies every day, and whether when we're going to make a game, we're thinking Matrix like that or not, they do seep their way into your consciousness. So probably you can say there's some inspirations that are taken from that Matrix, the kind of effects and all that. But in general, they really did not borrow any specific ideas or use any key inspirations. It just was, we want to make a cool looking game. That's where it all came from. Is what? Game そのものをアートのもの、芸術として考えているのか、それともエンターテインメントの一種として考えているのか。
芸術として考えた方がいいんじゃないの？遊び。
No, they're not art for him, they're fun. It's about playing, having fun.
Yeah, what are the expectations for Joe in Western markets?
What?
Expectations in Western markets for Joe?
Mixed markets.
Yeah, in the Western.
Western markets, sorry. ビューティフルジョーのその、北米とか欧州売り上げはどんな感じになると思いますか？期待。
いっぱい売れると思ってる。多分日本人より北米とか欧州とか昔も好きなんじゃないかな。期待してる。
I have pretty high expectations for Western markets. I think the game will sell very well both in America and in Europe. Actually, this is a game that's geared more towards Westerners. The character may seem Japanese, but whole play style and the action and the difficulty, these are all key traits to Western market. So I really do think it's going to sell well in both those two territories.
Obviously, everyone's keen to know what Mr. Knight was working on next, so can you tell us anything about his next project?
さっき Viewtiful Joe いろんな素晴らしいゲームを作ってるので、次に作ってるゲームについてちょっと聞きたいんです新しいプロジェクト今も知らせてどういうの話けどどんなゲームか一切言えないけどすごく新しくて面白いゲームになるずるい言えないよね。
Yes, we have just started development on a new game. It is super original, it is super creative, and it is super cool. That's all I can tell you. I can't tell you the name, I can't tell you the genre, I can't tell you anything. All I can say is it's going to be good. Yes. Trust me. I need trust me. Sometimes happens to me a bit, but no, you will Then Phoenix, they're still thinking about what they're going to do with it. It hasn't been canceled or anything like that yet. They're still thinking about what they're going to do with it. Games when you develop them, sometimes, like you said, they change a lot of times. Sometimes they change to the point where you have to stop developing it. Right now, it's kind of in limbo. They don't know exactly which way it's going to go, but they haven't officially canceled it. Questions?
Yeah. Going on. Sorry to talk about Dead Phoenix again, because I know it's a bit of a dodgy area, but there were rumours going around that Capcom's going to team up with Nintendo and turn it into Kid Icarus title. Is it true for those rumours?
また、いろんな噂が今上がってて、一つは、Nintendoと手を組んで、キドイクから、出た、ピンチの指輪を使って、続編になるっていう噂は非常によく聞きますけど、どうでしょう？ない。No. The answer is no. Because that's a pretty funny rumor. I wonder where this comes from. It's totally crazy. Questions, fellas? We all done? All right. Yeah. Keep today. Time.
The wait is finally over. Viewtiful Joe, the crazy retro-style action game that put the joy back in joystick and the roll back in side-scroll, is coming to the PlayStation 2. And not a moment too soon.
We just went, look, we want cool characters, we want cool enemies, and we want cool gameplay. This wasn't a game based on dollar signs. This was a game based on what do people like to play.
The hugely successful title is built around a pretty straightforward but endlessly enticing storyline. Joe, a regular schmo, is at the movies with his girlfriend.
Whoa, Sylvia! Cut it out!
She gets sucked into the film, and he follows.
Hey, wait a minute. Am I inside the movie?
My young Joe, it looks like you haven't awakened to your true powers as a hero.
A regular Joe turned superhero off to rescue his girl. The storyline is classic, and so is the interface.
It looks like an American comic. Cell shading and side-scrolling contribute to the feel you get in a comic book world. People want to play with the feeling that they are a classic hero character.
The core of Viewtiful Joe is old-school platform side-scrolling, okay? But in order for us to accomplish that in this day and age, we needed to incorporate 3D elements, and we also needed to make it very deep.
The game borrows heavily from the best of action movie cliches.
A lot of people have grown up with Star Wars type of films and shows where like a typical teenager in high school living a normal life was actually a superhero in disguise. Another one, of course, is karate films, action films. For example, there's a move called replay, where just like in an old kung fu film, when somebody gets a really big hit or it's the last punch, it shows it from 3 angles and you see the bam, bam, bam.
One of the effects is slow. That's a power that enables gameplay to slow down. It's like a scene from the movie Matrix when they dodge bullets.
So for those of you that think Viewtiful Joe might be too simplistic, think again.
On the surface, when you look at Viewtiful Joe, it might look like just a regular side-scrolling 2D action game, but we do utilize the modern-day hardware to make sure that the player gets a very in-depth experience. So when you utilize your super moves, it not only affects what's going on with you, it also affects the environment.
The developers, Capcom, have added some unique features in porting the game to the PlayStation 2 platform. One of the biggest improvements is the addition of Dante.
Dante is the main character from Devil May Cry, but his dad was like a demon from back in the day. So he decides to utilize his special powers to defeat evil in the world. When we first released Viewtiful Joe, there's a character, the enemy character named Alastor, who has some tie-ins with Devil May Cry. Because of those crossovers, we figured, okay, what character would make sense putting him in Viewtiful Joe, and what character would be fun to play? And we chose Dante. If you think that you know Viewtiful Joe to the core, you should try the PlayStation version because the Dante character brings a whole new dynamic. He can utilize his talents from the original game, where he has a double jump, he has a sword that he can throw, and he has his 2 guns. That, in conjunction with slowdown and speed up, makes Dante a pretty tough customer and pretty fun to play.
And just when you're totally hooked on Viewtiful Joe, they followed it up with a second round. Version 2 hit the ground running with lots of new features.
In Viewtiful Joe 1, Sylvia is the heroine, but she comes back as a playable character in Viewtiful Joe 2.
And you can look forward to a whole host of new supervillains that are as exciting and enigmatic as the ones in the first one.
Beyond those teases, the designers of version 2 are being tight-lipped about all it will have to offer, but they are willing to pass along some tips for improved play.
You can play through the first level without learning how to dodge the enemy moves, but learn how to dodge the enemy moves. It shows you where they're going to attack, and then you dodge the other direction. And if you do that, the whole game dynamics change up, because once you dodge them, then you can push slow, and when you punch them, they become projectiles, and everything changes. A whole new element to the game opens up. So a lot of thought has been put into that type of stuff, but also characters are likable, the enemies are funny, and I like that type of stuff. Like a good cartoon, but hip, on the level.
Let's get it on!
By the end of the game, there's no way that you can't be satisfied if you like playing video games.